Good morning again, Hope family. Good morning. This is still indeed the day that the Lord has made, and we shall continue to rejoice and be glad in it. Will you join me in a quick word of prayer? O God, our help, who is indeed in ages past, our gift of the days that are present, and our hope for the future that is to come, we ask that you continue to be with us in the spirit of worship, that you open all ears, that you open all minds to receive that which you have for them. And now may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, who is indeed our strength and our Redeemer. It's in the name of your Son, Jesus, who is the Christ, I do pray. Amen. I don't know about tomorrow. I just live from day to day. I don't worry about its sunshine because the skies may indeed turn to gray. The day was May 6th of 2020. It started out simply like any other day. I got up, I washed my face, I brushed my teeth, I worked out, I had my morning meeting. I felt really accomplished. And then I did what a lot of us millennials tend to do, and I started scrolling. Now, some people love to read the newspaper, some people love to scroll on Facebook. My favorite thing to scroll on is Instagram. And so I'm sitting there on the gram and I'm scrolling, and I come across an image from a friend of mine who went to Yale Divinity, and it talked about Ahmaud Arbery. Now, I remember hearing about Ahmaud back in February and heard that he was gunned down, but this time the picture came with a link to a clip of the incident. And there was a cautionary warning inside of the message that we should not watch it because we do not need further trauma on us. And so I ignored the caution and I watched the video, and friends, I can tell you that I made the wrong decision. Because when I went to watch the video, I saw a black man, not too much younger than myself, jogging around trying to evade trouble and viciously being gunned down by a man and his son. It was at that moment that I felt overwhelmed. It was in that moment that I felt scared, I felt confused, I did not know what to do but to hide in my bed because I did not know what the next moment would bring if I left my house. It's in that moment that my sky, my day that looked so bright, began to fall. And all I could do in that moment was simply curl up inside of my bed and hide. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. And see, the sky doesn't have to fall only when something catastrophic happens. A lot of us deal with the sky falling at many different times in our lives. Sometimes our sky falls when we have to move and leave our family and friends and move to a new school or a new job. Our sky may fall when we do not get that promotion or when we get laid off from our jobs. Our sky may fall when we suffer headache or heartbreak in our personal lives with our friends or with our loved ones or even with someone who we thought we were going to spend the rest of our lives with. Because see, friends, I want to tell you that when the sky falls, it is nothing more than simply you coming to the core of the viciousness of your own vulnerability. And that's where the young attendant in our story is right now. You see, he gets up on a day just like any other. He goes to the bathroom, he washes his face, he brushes his teeth, he goes and checks his paper. He looks to see that the day looks oh so promising until he makes it to the window and he looks outside and he sees the mayhem that is surrounding our upcoming elections. He sees the black and brown bodies in the streets that are continuing to be gunned down for no reason. He sees that schools and colleges are still closed and no idea when they will reopen. He sees that professional sports leagues are still shut down and that whole nations are closed. This man goes to the window and he sees a great army as far as the eye can see. And now that sky that was so blue and bright, that appeared to be so promising, has quickly began to fall. This young man's sky is falling. And so when his sky fell, he went to his master Elisha and he said, "Master, what shall we do?" And see, the master responds to him with assurance, and he simply says to him, "Do not be afraid. Don't be afraid. Do not be afraid of the uncertainty that may come with the elections. Do not be afraid of school closures that seem indefinite right now. Do not be afraid of those who marginalize or misunderstand you. Do not be afraid of the present pandemic. Do not be afraid of the nation shutting down. Do not be afraid of the broken relationships or the obstacles that may come in your life." Because see, the one thing that he says to his servant when he says that he is afraid is that there is more of us than there are of them. In other words, he's saying to his servant that even though thunder may flash and lightning may roll and your sky continues to fall, no matter what you are going through in your life, there will always be more of us than there are of them. So Elisha looks at his young attendant as one would look at a friend, and he can tell that he does not believe him. And so he says a quick prayer in the form of, "Lord, open my servant's eyes that he may see." In other words, what he is saying is, "Lord, let my servant be able to see beyond his present, beyond his circumstances, beyond what is troubling him, and let him be able to truly see your presence." And so when the servant opened his eyes, he still saw that great army. He still saw the pandemic. He still saw the school closures. He still saw the racism and discrimination that is all around him. He still saw the nations being shut down. But what he saw above all those things, making his sky fall, is an even greater army of horses and chariots of fire that are surrounding him. You see, we are living in a world today where the sky is falling all around us. And when the sky begins to fall, we reach our deepest vulnerability. We may want to close our eyes. We may want to hide in our beds or hide in our homes and hide from what may come next. But God is calling us in this season to open our eyes and to see God in a deeper and more intimate way. And the text gives us two great examples of how we can open our eyes. The first way is that we can open our eyes by moving away from proximity faith. You see, the young attendant in this story is not very different from you or I, because he was one who grew up in the church. He went to Sunday school. He sang in the children's choir. He played the instruments. He went on the mission trips. He went to all the lock-ins. He heard the children's sermons. And when he was a little older, he sat in the sanctuary and heard the sermons. But all because you spend time in the proximity of faith does not make your faith personal. It doesn't make it real. And see, when you live a life in the proximity of faith, you live a life that is very convenient when everything is going good. Proximity faith allows you to live life with sight, so you can only see what is going on. So when life is good, your faith is great. But when life is bad, your faith then becomes fleeting. Proximity faith means that your faith will be abandoned, frail, and gone when your sky begins to fall. So what we need to do, church, is we need to move away from proximity faith and move into personal faith. Because, see, personal faith is nothing more than you being able to see your life not just with sight, but also with vision. It's vision that is nothing more than seeing through the lens of God's provision in each and every situation. And that means that you can walk through life with the assurance, knowing that there is always more of us than there are of them. Knowing that even though the storms may rage in your life, that you know the one who calms the storms. It means knowing that when doubt creeps up in your mind, that you know the one who soothes all doubts and removes all fears. It means knowing that when life knocks you down, you know the one who will pick you up, dust you off, and carry you through whatever it is you're going through in that moment. And you know that you will be able to lift up your eyes to the hills from which comes your help, knowing that your help comes from the Lord. So we can open our eyes by first moving away from proximity faith. But the second and most important way we can do this is by making our faith a non-perishable item. You know, when this whole pandemic started and I just moved to Michigan, I was kind of late to the party, and I started going to the stores, and they were out of ramen noodles, they were out of peanut butter, they were out of jelly, they were out of bread, they were out of all of the wonderful, canned mac and cheese and all that other good stuff. It was out of all of the non-perishable items. Because when people buy non-perishable items, they are buying items that they know are going to last. They know that they will stand through the test of times, and they will know that they will be able to use them and to call on them even when things are tough. And friends, I'm here to tell you that life is hard. Life is hard. Life is full of people who are not going to like you. Life is full of people who will misunderstand you. Life is full of people who will lie on you or betray you or will stab you in the back. Life is full of people where it will only be their sole mission to knock you down instead of lift you up. And when these things happen, when these people come into our lives, when circumstances and situations happen, our sky is going to fall. Because the sky falling is not just a one-time feeling. It is something that we might experience daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly. But when our sky begins to fall, we have to have a faith that is non-perishable. Because, see, a non-perishable faith is nothing more than you understanding that God's presence is still indeed bigger than your present situation. That God's presence rests, rules, and abides over all of the things that are going on in your life. That God's presence means that all things will continue to work together for your good. God's presence means that your righteous will not be forsaken. God's presence means that favor will continue to be upon you. Because, see, a non-perishable faith is transcendent. It transcends days that are good and bad, the happy and the sad. It is bigger than any mayhem. It is bigger than any pandemic. It is bigger than any racist or any bigot that we may come across in life. Because a non-perishable faith is a faith that comes in spite of all that may be happening in our lives, that we can still find a way to smile and have joy, that we can still find hope, that we can still find love, and we can recognize that God's arms are wrapped around us so tight and there's nothing that we can do about it. A non-perishable faith is something that will hold you and gird you in the midst of all circumstances, all situations. It holds you when you cry. It holds you when you don't even have the words to say out of your mouth. And it allows you to always see that despite what is going on in your life, God is there with you. And God's favor and God's presence is always surrounding everything that you go through in life. So friends, I'm done. Make your faith a non-perishable item today. Make your faith so deep and so real in God that nothing will be able to have you lose sight of the fact that there is more of us. There is more of favor. There is more of love, of joy, of hope, of peace, of all things that God has promised you, than there is of any situation that may be trying to harm you. Amen. Hello, everybody. This poem that I'm about to read is written by myself and is inspired by the tragic, vicious, and malicious murder of Ahmaud Arbery. This poem is not just for me, but is for those who have gone before me and those who will come after me. The poem is entitled, Little Black Boy. Little black boy, will you ever meet the world the way that God intended it to be, where all men are created the same and oppression of any kind is brought to shame? Little black boy, will you ever smile and see the stars and stare for a while? Or will you run when you see the light because those who misunderstand you are filled with fright? Little black boy, can you live with joy? Like when you were a child and you would play with your toys. Can you live without doubt or move without fear, or will the weight of the world crush you through the years? Little black boy, can you play in the sun? Or is your memory scared with the sounds of fire at your back? Will you be able to live without the necessity to run, or will you always be scared of the melanin that makes you black? Little black boy, I want you to know that God is with you everywhere that you go. And even though it may not look like it now, God made you a king. And one day the world will look to you for guidance and will humbly take their bow. Little black boy, I want you to know, and I want you to take this with you everywhere that you go, that a thief may come to steal and kill in the night, but the thief can never rob you of your joy. The thief can never thieve you of your light. Little black boy.
Amen. 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 Amen.
The worship and ministry of Hope United Methodist Church is only made possible by the support from our followers. Whether you give by text at 248-965-5534 or online at hopeumc.org/giving, or by mail at 26275 Northwestern Highway, Southfield, Michigan, 48076. And every gift is devoted to the work of God. Stay in touch with Hope by texting CONTACT to 248-368-0204, and we'll add you to our email and our text phone list. Now, for those of you who have been enjoying this worship service on YouTube, we'd like to ask you to do us a favor. On the bottom right of your screen is a thumbs up symbol. Please click on that icon as a symbol of your support for our streaming worship services. Now on the bottom right of your screen is a subscribe icon. Please click on that as a symbol of your support also for Hope's streaming worship services. That way, you will be sent notifications of future recordings. God bless, and thanks for joining us.